I'm here today with Fred Hermes, who has a Wurlitzer organ and a movie palace that he built a house around.
First idea was I thought about picking up a Wurlitzer when I was a little kid from the Rialto Theater down in Racine. And I gotta tell people, my mother used to take me down to the theater and I'd kick her all over the place. And I decided when the organ would play, and I decided then someday I was going to buy that organ. And then about 3 weeks later I was born. And whether that's a true story or not or something I made up, I don't really know for sure.
Okay, you're just going to stick to that one, huh?
Yeah, as good as any. Pump organ, that was my first organ. You know, it's that old pump organ, reed organ from about 1880. From some old lady who lived down the hill from us on LaSalle Street. She had it sitting on her porch. I used to walk by that on the way to school all the time, and it intrigued me, so I asked her if she wanted to sell it, and she says, yeah. I said, how much you want? She says, $2. Went home, found $2, got about 4 or 5 kids my age, you know, about 10 years old, coaster wagon, put on that, pulled it up the hill, and put it in front of the fireplace. My mother came home, was waiting for her. Well, she liked to sing, so I actually started accompanying her. She liked to sing Beautiful Dreamer and other songs, and so I would play for her, and we got a good or better relationship going there.
So when did you start playing organ?
I would say I started playing on it when I was 8 years, when I bought that pump organ.
Okay.
Of course, I'd been taking piano lessons for, a couple of years beforehand, but I liked the sound of the organ. Wurlitzer built over 2,500 organs in the teens and into the 20s. Most of them for theaters and a lot for churches. The first Wurlitzer I bought was a 2-manual Wurlitzer, 2 keyboards with 7 sets of pipes. Well, it wasn't big enough, and half of it was ruined by water. That was from the Rialto Theater in town here. That's where it came from, because it was in 2 chambers, one on each side of the stage. And so I had to find something to replace that, so then I went to Milwaukee and found one in the Riviera Theater. That was a complete organ of 5 ranks, but had everything I needed. It was in mint condition. So I bought that. I asked the guy, I offered him $200 for it. He says, no, you got to get more than that. I says, what? He said, well, I had somebody else offered me $200 for it, and I turned him down. I said, well, how much did you want for it? $225.
Okay.
I said, $25 you're out. My friends and I took it apart, pulled it down, because there are a lot of parts in these organs.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't like an organ, an electronic organ.
Right.
Pick it up and carry it away. And then I had that, then I wanted something bigger. And so, like everybody wants, all guys want something bigger,
Sure.
And so, I happened to be looking in the organ magazine, and there was a Wurlitzer organ for sale in the First Baptist Church, Madison, Wisconsin. So my wife and I went up to look at that, see what it was. Who knows what it was? It was in the church.
Mm-hmm.
So I got up there and looked at it, and just what I wanted. It was a 4-manual Wurlitzer. That's 4 keyboards. I'd sold the other organ to Bill Leggett out at Browns Lake for his ballroom there.
Okay.
And then I went up there and I looked at the organ, and I asked them what they wanted for it. They said, well, we got to have, I think $3,000, I think they said. I said, well, I'll give you 300. And he said, well, he kind of snickered. He said, oh, well, if we're interested, we'll call you.
Mm-hmm.
No sooner I got home and the phone rang, he said, come and get it. And I think it was 1949, something like that. Took it apart, hauled it, installed it in the basement of our office building. And of course, Stephen had a radio program there. I played the organ, and being a member of the real estate board, they'd read our listings.
Mm-hmm.
And I got my listings read for nothing because I was playing the program for him. then still wanted something bigger. So I looked through, I got a copy of Wurlitzer's installation list of their 2,500 organs or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through that, and there are a lot of 4 manual organs that were pretty big, 100 radius in the city music hall was 4. But all the thousands of organs, they only built 3 that have 5 keyboards. And of the 3 they had, this was the biggest. That means it has the most pipes in it.
Okay.
And so I decided I wanted that organ. So I called a friend of mine out in Detroit, because that's where it was located, in the Michigan Theater in Detroit. And he said the organ wasn't for sale, but it was in the Michigan Theater, it was still there. So I decided, well, I was going to go over and talk to the guy. He said, "Here, you can look at it, I really don't want to sell it."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Yeah, but you know, this organ was run down to the bottom of the pit. They took the lift apart that the organ was sitting on and threw it away and disconnected the blower, and they cut a hole in the face of the stage wall, concrete wall, shoved the console through the wall, and cemented the wall up behind. So it ain't going anywhere."
So the organ was basically sort of in a vault that you couldn't get into?
It was in a room, they shoved it through it and they cemented the wall. No way to get it out that way. So he says, "Well, you're never going to use it." "Well, it's not in the way." So I said, "Well, Frank Dillon," that was his name. By then I knew him enough to call him by his first name. "Let me tell you something. I'm in a real estate business and an insurance business. And I checked with the city of Detroit before I came in over here to see how much personal property taxes you were paying on that organ." And they were paying maybe $1,000 a year. And
Well, this is 1955?
yeah, well, yeah, but I said, "You've been paying that for 20 years. I said, "You threw 20 grand down the rat hole the last 20 years. You keep it here another 20 years. You're gonna get another. You're gonna want to throw $40,000 after something." That made him change his mind. I says to Frank, I says, "What do you want for the organ?" He says, "Well, I want $3,000 for it." I said, "Well, Frank," I says, no, he wanted $5,000.
Okay.
I said, "I'll tell you what, I'll give you $1,000. No, he wanted more than that. We negotiated a price at $3,000. And we settled for $3,000, and that's what I sold the other organ for anyway, so it came out even anyway. So then I got, then I paid him the money, and he called me up, "Fred, we got another problem." I said, "What's that?" And he says, "Well, everything that we, in the theater that we own, is leased to the United Detroit Theaters." And that was a big going theater at the time.
Okay.
And he said, "We don't want to be bothered." The manager said, "We don't want to be bothered with all the dirt and the noise and the dust and hauling that thing out and stuff like that." So he says he can buy the organ, but he can't take it out till the lease runs out in 20 years.
That's a problem.
So I said, "Frank," he called me on the phone and told me that. I said, "Frank, like I told you, I was in the real estate. I want to come over and see the lease." He hauled it out, took the dust off it. Nobody looked at it for 30 years or more. So I opened up the last page or two. He says, "Fred, don't you want to start at the beginning?" I said, "No." I says, "Leases are like insurance policies. The big print in the front gives it to you, and the little print in the back takes it all away."
Okay.
So I said, "Okay, here's your answer." It's in the last page. And final condition of this lease is that everything leased to United Detroit Theaters must be maintained in first-class operating condition. If it is found not to be so, there's $1,000 a month fine until it's put back in shape. And I said, "Frank," I said, "I'm just guessing it cost $50,000 to put that organ back in shape. Once you knock that wall down and get it out and find another lift to put it on and hook up the blower." And he said, "You're going to have $60,000, $70,000 in that." So he calls the guy and tells the dealer, I could hear it swear across the room, and I won't use his language. "Get the blanky blank thing out of here." So that took care of that, and we made the deal. Then we had a problem with this. Detroit's a union town, you know. So we had a problem with the stagehand union. They wanted something. I said, "What did you guys want to help me take the organ?" I said, "A couple of bottles of whiskey will help you." So
Okay, there you go.
I got hold of merchant's delivery. I said, "On Saturday, I want your 2 biggest moving van semi-trailers behind the theater early in the morning on Saturday, because you're going to have to load it on Saturday. We'll have it all apart for you to carry out And you have to move it on Sunday because your trucks could well be overloaded, but then the weigh stations are closed on Sunday.
Okay.
So we worked every day about, I would say, 10, 11 hours a day taking that thing apart, getting ready for them when they got there. When we took this organ out, it was the middle of February, and a sleet storm was coming. And I had asked the city to post a sign, no parking behind the theater, Michigan Theater. We got there about 6 o'clock in the morning, and the trucks were there, and there were signs along the sidewalk, no parking today, and people were lining up. The sign said, the only signs they could find said no parking parade today.
So they thought there was going to be a
In
parade?
the middle of February. Charlie Conrad, he was one of the three to help me. He said, Fred, he said, and a sleet alarm was coming, he said, I thought I did everything when I was shooting. He was a pilot. He said, I shot down MiGs all over North Korea. It was my jet plane. I said, and I thought I did everything, but I never thought I'd be carrying a pipe organ on a fire escape in the middle of a sleet storm. We carried out the heavy stuff and we loaded, packed the pipes in boxes they brought along that I had them bring along for me for packing the little stuff in, you know. And they hauled it back to the basement on the Opus building down on 6th Street, and which had a couple thousand square feet in the basement, and had it down there and worked it over and restored it and re-leathered it and all that kind of stuff, and brought it out here. By then the basement had been built with no house on top, just the framework.
Okay.
And it took another couple of years to put it together, and that's what happened then.
So you brought it here, and it took 2 semi trucks to pack all the stuff in, or 3?
Oh yeah, oh 2 semis, plus then we went back for another truckload of stuff.
Okay. But how big is this organ?
We had this organ was hauled on the basement of our office. I told you that.
Right, you stored it for a couple of years while you were building the house to put it into, right?
Well, we were building the house and then we restored the organ at the same time.
Okay. And how long did it take you to, once you got the organ here in this house, how long did it take you to get it to where it was playable?
Well, maybe 6 months. But don't forget, it's a big organ. We had part of it playable so you could use it. And that was only a small part of the organ.
Okay.
So we had something we could play with anyway. There are all over 3,000 pipes in this organ. And the longest pipe is about 20 feet long, and it weighs about 400 pounds.
So the organ console itself weighs how much?
I would say close to a ton.
Somewhere, I think you told me how much the pipes weighed.
Well, the whole thing altogether weighed, I'm just guessing, maybe 20 tons altogether. This organ, when it was new, cost $65,000 in 1926. If you were to reproduce this organ today, you're looking at about $3 million. But that's if you have an organ company that builds it for you. That's because the average church organ today costs over almost $1 million.
I know you said it has 5 manuals on it.
Yeah.
And you were saying that it's the biggest organ that Wurlitzer made. Is it literally this model, the one you have, or
this model is the biggest organ they built with 5 keyboards?
And what does that mean? What is a rank?
A set of pipes like here. I'll show you a brass trumpet now.
Okay.
A trumpet rank, set of pipes. The pipe, there's 61 pipes.
Okay.
Starting at the bottom key all the way to the top. You got a brass trumpet pipe that the longest one is 9 feet long, the shortest one is about 6 inches.
Okay.
You got to have that for every set of pipes in the organ. The flutes, the strings, everything else, because you have to have one for every key. And the flutes you have to have over more than that, 97, because they go up to the piccolo and the 5 octave, and then you have to have all those B pipes up there, and also some of the big pipes, like the tuba, that goes down into the pedal, and that's where you have that big pipe, because that's the base of the organ.
Okay.
So they extended an octave below.
Okay. And how many notes are on the pedal?
32.
Okay.
That's standard.
So how long did it take you to actually get all the pipes and everything working on the organ?
A couple of years.
Now you did it yourself?
No, I had a lot of friends help.
Okay, that's kind of what I figured. It seems like a pretty big.
I used to have 2, 3 guys, high school kids, help me.
Yeah.
See, we're sitting on a ravine here,
and
those are the powerful pipes in that chamber. We have the back door open, for no air conditioning here, just to keep it cool. Play those pipes, and they were walking up the beach, and they heard the organ music. They followed right up the creek to where it was, and then they came in here, and then they hung around for 2 years putting it together for me.
Well, that's pretty nice.
And both these guys are, no, one of them is dead now. The other one's down in Texas, living still
Okay.
there. And so and then I had other people come and help me all the time because all the wind lines that connect the different divisions of the organ, the sets of pipes, they're all metal tubing, and they're all soldered.
Oh, okay.
Just stuck together, they're soldered. That had to be soldered. That was all done by hand, and we all did that ourselves.
Brought it here in '59 and got it all fully working by what, about '65?
Yeah, I would say that was
Yeah.
earlier than that. Got it all working about 1960, 61.
Okay.